Hello guys, and welcome back to a new video of mine. With this new update coming out by Voldex, the Yokai Peak Dungeon and the new Oni event, I wanted to cover the history of Dungeon Quest, and this was something that was a lot of fun to research and look into. So I put together some things for us to go over, and we're going to look at the timeline and evolution of Dungeon Quest. So, the world and idea of Dungeon Quest was at least created in September of 2018. It's important to note that just because an instance was created at a certain time, doesn't mean the game was released at that time. That's just the time the world was created in Roblox Studio. Using the Wayback Machine, the farthest page of Dungeon Quest we can go back to is in March 16th, 2019. Simply put in the description, a dungeon RPG in the works. The game was a hit, easily garnering 34 million plus visits with nearly 150,000 favorites concurring nearly 45,000 players so early on is impressive. But with the game came its Discord server, a place where all fans could easily meet up and be around others with similar intentions. That being said, let's talk about the Discord for a moment. In the general channel, we can see the first people join on 7/14/2018, which is before Dungeon Quest was even created. It seems that back in the day, people loved to talk about what I believe to be the game Ultimate Fisher from VCafe. Ultimate Fisher is a fishing game that VCafe was updating back in the day. And it seems that this Discord server was originally a server where you could join to talk about that game, but he made it into a Dungeon Quest server instead. It seems that VCafe discontinued Ultimate Fisher to do other things. But this wasn't a popular opinion by some. However, in the end it definitely worked out. One of the first mentions of Dungeon Quest in the Discord is in October 4th, 2018, with someone by the name of Anexo saying, "Oh Poe, that game looks great, it's an RPG game, right?" With VCafe saying, "Yup, it's an action RPG, where you can run different level dungeons with random people or friends." From what I've put together, Poe is Cafe's old alias, so if you hear Poe, that just means it's VCafe. That's the old name he used to go by. Loop here was pretty accurate in his guess, saying, "I have a feeling that it's going to rise in popularity rather quickly," which definitely turned out to be true. The Discord has a lot of information on the development, like progress reports on the upgrading system, the healing spells, and regular damage spells. However, out of all the things I've seen, I found a video that is ranking up there. It's an unlisted video from 4 years ago on a very early build of Dungeon Quest. We can even see that the Holy Circle was a legendary item back then. The video will be in the description and I'll show a bit of it here. Is it just me, or does the crystallized greatsword look better than it does now? Well, besides that, we have some old ideas on the armor system by VCafe here. Back when Dungeon Quest was still in the development, the game was called New Dungeon Game, and VCafe's name was Poe Cannon back then, hence all the reference to this Poe character. Then it seems on the 1st of December in 2018 at 4:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, VCafe released what is now Dungeon Quest to the public, with an interesting little description. Here's a little picture of an old inventory, and even an epic leaf-bladed greatsword. This item is not even in the game now. There's also an old picture of a group of people, including VCafe against the Sand Giant. Well, that's enough for the Discord for now. You could always go back and look on the history yourself. While I can't get very many numbers and specifics on player count every day since the release of Dungeon Quest, I can get a rough look with the Wayback Machine even if the times are very spotty. A few months after the release of Dungeon Quest to the public, the game took off. Here is a Google Sheets I whipped up showing player counts, favorites, and visits till a certain point where I deemed it was unnecessary to continue. So on the Google Sheets, I've put together the year, the month, the players, the favorites, and visits. Here we can see that the farthest back I can go, even though I know the game was released before March 16th, 2019, that's just the farthest back I can go on the Wayback Machine, so I'm sorry. There's nothing else I can do about that. However, we can see that that's only a few months after the public release of the game on, I believe, December 1st of 2018. And just a few months after that, the game had nearly 45,000 players, nearly 150,000 favorites, with 34 million plus visits. That is huge for a starting game. The next month, we can see that April 27th, 2019, we have around half the players with nearly 3 times the amount of favorites with a ton more visits. This game took off at the start. I wasn't there since the beginning, but I did play pretty early on. So we have a huge time gap here. That's why I put that there, because it's nearly a year. But there's nothing I can do about that. So April 7th, 2020, the game is stabilizing around 11,000 players with 1.2 million favorites with 830 million plus visits. And September 19th, the game has hit 1 billion visits with around the same amount of players and a little more favorites. But here's where the game starts to decrease in players a bit, and we can see the true loyal people from then to now. November 23rd, 2020, 4,800 players, 1.5 million favorites, 1.1 billion plus visits. And then the 7th, seems that the player count on the November one was just a bit down that day, maybe it was a school day. But on December, it was nearly double, not exactly. And it had roughly the same amount of favorites and visits. And then February and March, as you can see, until October 24th, where it kind of stabilized at a lower number. And the reason why I didn't continue on, because obviously it's just going to get lower and lower. So obviously the game just stabilized to where it is now. Well, while the game Dungeon Quest has had a long ride, its history is long from over. As with Vortex acquiring the game, the players are guaranteed an update coming this October 13th, which is going to be the first one in like nearly a year, guys. This game has had a very loyal fan base. For a Roblox game, usually they would die after this long. But with a couple thousand players average daily, it's not as much as it may have used to been, but it is the loyal fan base. And with Vortex acquiring it, hopefully the game can take off a bit more. If you like this content, I would appreciate it if you can consider supporting by subscribing, liking, and/or leaving a comment for me. It really motivates me. Stay nice out there, compliment your mother tomorrow, and well, see you guys. That's it for this video, my peoples. If you like this content, I would appreciate it if you could